Salute, salute. Government shutdown. Day 36, y'all.
And we're working so hard for the last several weeks in their districts, trying to help their constituents navigate the chaoses that have been created by the Democrat shutdown. We're now on day 36, and it is a sad landmark in our history. This is the longest shutdown of any government in our history. And they've also made history in a number of ways, which we've recounted every day in our daily press conferences. Remember, this is the first time in the history of America that any party has had the audacity to close down the government over a totally clean, nonpartisan continuing resolution. I said yesterday, and I'm being honest, none of us imagined that we would be here at this moment. We couldn't have imagined that Democrats would be willing to force families to go hungry and workers to miss paychecks for 5 weeks on end, 50 days plus, and we never did imagine that they would be willing to use the pain of American families with such reckless disregard. But that is what we are seeing, and it is unconscionable. Despite the 15 opportunities they have now had to reopen the government, they have voted 15 times to keep it closed. That is the number that everyone has to pay attention to. All the Americans who are hurting because of this. They need to understand Republicans have voted 15 times to open your government, and the Democrats have voted 15 times to close it. They voted to deny paychecks to workers, to stop the flow of SNAP funds to hungry families, and all the rest. And still, somehow, they have the audacity to go on national television and gaslight the American people and try to pretend that somehow the Republican Party has some blame in this. It's the most outrageous example of political gaslighting that we have ever seen. And day after day, they have claimed, without any merit at all, this shutdown is somehow about health care. It's a blatant lie, and they know it. They tried to string together two totally unrelated issues.
Thank you.
The expiration of the Obamacare COVID subsidies and the basic funding of the federal government. Those are two totally distinct things. Republicans have always been willing to have a conversation about the COVID-era subsidies and how to make Obamacare and health care more affordable. But we will not, and we should not do so as hostages in their political game. It was in no way necessary or appropriate to shut down the government in order to have bipartisan discussions about the subsidies. The reality is the Democrats could have avoided all of this chaos and all the pain, everything they've inflicted on American families, by simply voting to back the clean, nonpartisan continuing resolution, the 24-page simple document, just as they did 13 times under the Biden administration. They could have passed that 47 days ago. After the House did it, we did our work and sent it over there. And we would have had all these negotiations and continued. I'm gonna wrap this up and tell you again why. The big question is why. Why would the Democrats have the audacity to do this? As we summarized so simply yesterday, and we will do so every day, they are motivated out of fear. The Democrats shut down the government out of fear. They have never been more afraid at any point than they are right now. They know, as we all do, what their own polls show. The leadership of the Democratic Party is the most unpopular with members of their own Democratic base. And we saw that in the elections last night. The old guard is desperately trying to use this shutdown to show the radical Marxist wing of their party that they can look tough to President Trump. That's because the new power center of the left isn't the moderates. It's the AOCs and the Bernie Sanders and the Mamdanis of the party. It's the activists who believe capitalism is evil, who disdain the founding principles of their own country. They claim that the salvation of our nation will be brought about by bigger government and more bureaucracy. Look what happened in New York City last night. For the first time in American history, an avowed, openly proclaimed socialist has been elected as the mayor of America's largest city. Zoran Mondani is without a doubt the biggest win for socialism in the history of the country, and it is the biggest loss for the American people. He is truly a committed Marxist. And the results of that race tell you everything you need to know about where the Democrats and their party are headed. From the backbench to their leadership, Democrats have fallen in line behind the socialist candidates. Hakeem Jeffries, as you know, is the highest ranking Democrat in the House. He gave his full blessing to Mamdani and his socialist agenda. Chuck Schumer, the highest ranking Democrat in the Senate and the highest ranking Jewish leader in America, flirted with endorsing Mamdani all the way to the bitter end. Never mind the fact that Zoran has embraced anti-Semitic rhetoric and promised to arrest the Prime Minister of Israel if he visits New York City again. And then there's President Obama, who called Mamdani over the weekend to extend his praise and act as a sounding board for the young socialist. You can't make this stuff up. The man who made healthcare unaffordable with his own socialist scheme is advising the man whose false promises will surely make life unlivable for millions of New Yorkers who cannot afford to flee the city. As we said from this podium every morning, we talk about Mamdani for two reasons. It's a bellwether, because House Democrats, many of whom represent districts with much less blue than New York City, have embraced him with open arms. And because his brand of Marxism is truly a bellwether for the Democrats nationwide. We pointed out that other major metropolitan areas in the country are facing the same threat with candidates similar to Mamdani. And we're going to continue to call out their effort to mainstream and normalize socialism and Marxism in America. Working families watching this play out have a right to know that socialism and communism are not just confined in New York City. They are quickly coming to a town near you unless you stand up and let your voice of common sense be heard.
The longest in U.S. history.
While Democrats hitch their wagon to the socialist agenda, Republicans are going to continue to act in good faith on behalf of hardworking Americans. And we will remind a new generation of Americans about the painful and inescapable realities of history. We'll have much more to say about this in the days ahead. There were no surprises last night. I'll just summarize on the election, and then I'll yield to some of our sophomore stars here. There's no surprises. What happened last night was blue states and blue cities voted blue. We all saw that coming. And no one should read too much into last night's election results. Off-year elections are not indicative of what's to come. That's what history teaches us. By the way, it's worthy of note that Zoran Mamdani himself only received a little over 1 million votes, 1,036,000 votes. There are 8.3 million residents in New York City. 8.5 million actually is the number, I think. So about 12% of the city voted to turn their city over to the communists. We'll see how that works out. The lesson is that common sense Americans have to stay informed, you have to stay engaged, and you have to vote and let your voice be heard. But back to the urgent issue of this moment. Unlike our Democrat friends, Republicans know there's no prize for the milestone we've hit today. No one wins in a government shutdown. We pray that Democrats wake up to that truth very soon. We are very hopeful that they will come to their senses and help us to reopen the government. Remember, it's about math. We have to have 60 votes in the Senate, and we only have 53 Republicans. The entire country is waiting and calling on Democrats to put their political fight aside and open the government. Until they do that and do the right thing, House Republicans will continue to do what we've done since day one, and that is helping our constituents navigate the chaos and confusion of the Democrat shutdown back in our districts. And that includes the members of our outstanding sophomore class, many of whom represented here today. Some of them are here, and we want to thank them for their leadership and their resolve, and they're working in their districts and in D.C. and being all over the place. One of those leaders is Congressman Russell Fry, our sophomore class representative. He was the president of the freshman class, and so he still gets that distinction. He serves on our...
This is Mike Johnson, guys, speaking on day 36 of the government shutdown, guys, the longest in U.S. history, man. Make sure you double tap that screen. If you're on a mobile device, that's how you hit the like button, or click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up. It helps out the channel, guys. Everybody hit the like button. Double tap your screen or click those 3 dots, hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're new.
Elected Leadership Committee. And I will tell you that Russell has been a strong voice for common sense, for conservative values, and we're truly grateful.
Let's go, Ms. Pooh Bear, member for 13 months.
Mr. President of the class, I'll turn over the podium to you. Thanks. Hey, buddy.
In this world, few things are certain other than death, taxes, and Democrats saying one thing and doing another. They say they're the party that cares about the American people, but everything that they have done for the last 36 days proves otherwise. Not only is this the longest shutdown of all time, it's also the dumbest shutdown of all time. But now that the election charades are over, maybe Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries can get the political blessing of their new savior, Zohran Mamdani, to reopen the government, to pay our federal employees, to pay our troops, and to allow struggling families on SNAP to receive the benefits that they've had for a long time. But make no mistake, this is not about governing. This is about gamesmanship to the Democratic Party. But I think, and I have faith, that the American people are smart, that they recognize a lie when it is being told to them. For years, during the Biden administration, we were told that the border was secure by the Democratic Party. The American people were told that the border was secure. It wasn't. For years, we were told by congressional Democrats that President Biden's mental faculties were okay, that he's never been sharper. That was a lie. And now we're told by congressional Democrats yet again that it is a Republican shutdown when we all know that the simple math is that you need 60 votes. So Chuck Schumer, I think it's time to call Zohran Mamdani and make sure that he's okay with reopening the government. They're holding the government hostage at the expense of the American people. I talked to a U.S. Marshal yesterday in the district in South Carolina. He is door dashing food and driving Ubers to pay his mortgage, to pay and feed his kids. I talked to a lady, single mother in Clio, South Carolina, last night. She receives food stamps. She's 100% disabled. She's unable to work. She relies on that assistance. And she is fearful about how she's going to feed her kids. She's traveling all the way into North Carolina to receive charitable contributions.
Shout out to Lives Everywhere being a member for 6 months.
That is the result of a Democrat
hit the like
shutdown.
button, subscribe to the
I talked
channel.
to an elderly lady in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina yesterday. She has diabetes. She has shingles. She is unable to work. She is elderly. She needs that $88 to help bridge the gap at the end of the month so that she can eat. And she's fearful of what's going to happen next with this prolonged shutdown. For these people, these benefits are not a luxury, they're a lifeline. And it shouldn't take courage from them to band together and figure out how they're going to feed themselves. It should take leadership from the United States Senate to act and end this political charade. But that's what they want. They've told you from the beginning what this is all about. It's about leverage to them. It's not about the American people. It's not about the TSA agents who are still working, or the FBI or ICE officials. It's not about the military. It's not about the people in Clio, South Carolina, who rely on those SNAP benefits. It's about political leverage for them. And that political nihilism is malpractice for the American people. So these are the voices of South Carolinians, but they really echo, I think, what we all hear in our districts from the people that we represent. Right now, millions of Americans are all struggling because of this Democrat shutdown. And so to answer the question, I think, of what can be done, well, it's quite simple. The Democrats in the Senate need to do their job on behalf of the American people. House Republicans have already passed this. We will continue to put pressure on Senate Democrats to act, because at the end of the day, we care about the American people. We care about their struggles. We are not interested in funding illegal immigrant health care. We're interested in making sure that our troops get paid. So today, I echo what the Speaker has said for 36 days, and my colleagues. It's time to reopen the government and end the political gamesmanship. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Make sure you double tapping that screen if you're on a mobile device, guys. Click the 3 dots, hit the thumbs up, man. You know, as leaders of government,
Thank you, Russell.
speak on day 36 of the government
last night we saw the Democrat Party usher in their new leader. We've been talking about this for weeks, but it was made official. When the city of New York elected Zohran Mamdani, he became the new leader of the Democrat Party. And while the Democrat Party had no problem making the shift to socialism, which they embraced wholeheartedly, led by Hakeem Jeffries and others here, America, mainstream Americans, blue dog Democrats across America have not embraced socialism. America is not a socialist nation. You know, when the speaker mentioned that, is it any surprise that last night blue states voted blue? We're talking Virginia, New Jersey, New York. By the way, none of those were swing states. You had 7 swing states in the election a year ago today. And by the way, we celebrate that a year ago today, Donald Trump was elected president of the United States. And when he ran on very specific things, not socialism. 7 out of 7 swing states rejected that form of socialism that has now taken over the Democrat Party. What President Trump and House Republicans ran on was delivering results for American families. We said we would secure the border, and we actually delivered on that in record time. We said we would prevent a tax increase on anybody. Every American, no matter what income level you were at, you were facing a tax increase, in many cases a 30% or larger tax increase. We said we wouldn't do it. The Democrats bragged that they were going to raise your taxes. And the American people decided that, not New York City. The American people a year ago decided they didn't want a tax increase, and we followed through on that by preventing the largest tax increase on American families. Also by delivering no tax on tips, no tax on overtime for seniors, 85% of whom will not have to pay taxes on their Social Security income when you factor in the deduction. We delivered on that. Every Democrat, by the way, voted no, because Democrats don't want hardworking Americans to keep more of their money. They want socialism. And let's think about those hollow promises that Zoran Mandami talked about last night. Can anybody wait to see what those free buses are going to look like? I'm sure they're going to be incredibly safe and clean when you ride the free buses. Can anybody wait to see what those government-run grocery stores are going to look like? Shelves unstocked, expired food. I'm sure the friendliness of those employees that are government employees at those grocery stores. That's what socialism does. Socialism always overpromises and underdelivers. But should we be surprised? That's what Democrats up here in Washington have been doing for years. Does anybody remember the Inflation Reduction Act? Yes, that was a Democrat-created product that ushered in record levels of inflation. Where was the inflation reduction? They have no problem lying to the American people. Does anybody remember, by the way, the Affordable Care Act? Yes, that was Democrats only creating current healthcare law. The law of the land in healthcare today is Democrat only created Affordable Care Act. That's anything but affordable. All we've seen is 80% increases in costs for families, record profits for insurance companies, but 80% increases on families. Democrats have never had a problem lying to the American people, overpromising to the American people, and never delivering the goods. And you contrast that with Republicans.
Let's take time, guys, to double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device, guys. Or click the 3 dots, hit the thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new. Liking the video helps out the channel, guys. So double tap that screen of your mobile device or click those 3 dots and hit that thumbs up as they speak on day 36 of the government shutdown.
Again, a year ago today, we ran on very specific things, and we've already, working with Donald Trump, ushered in a new level of American greatness. And it's not just here in America. We're finally starting to see that leadership around the world that we've been so desperately lacking when President Trump starts getting peace agreements in Middle Eastern countries, in other places. It's about delivering on promises for the American people. And all we're seeing during this shutdown is Democrats scared to death of the Mandami wing of the party. They've said it. Some of them said it out loud. but they have exercised it in their votes. They voted time and time again to keep the government shut down, knowing they're inflicting suffering and pain on the American people, admitting that they're using that suffering to try to get leverage. They still can't tell you what the leverage is for. Leverage for what? To go boast to the socialist Mondami wing of their party that they're fighting Donald Trump, who was elected not by the people of New York or New Jersey or Virginia, but by a majority of Americans, 77 million Americans, 7 out of 7 swing states, running on very specific things that President Donald Trump and this Republican majority have continued to deliver on. We're going to keep delivering wins for the American people, and Democrats will continue to give the hollow promises of socialism that come along with the failures of socialism that it truly delivers for people. And yeah, people in New York, when they realize how bad socialism is, they can just leave like they've been doing for years. They can move to states like Florida, to Texas. They can even come to Louisiana. But if they ruin America, if they're able to take hold with socialism in America, where else are people going to go? There is no plan B to this great United States of America, and we're not going to let socialism take over in this great country. With that, I bring up Barbara Webb. Tom Emmer.
Democrats have officially set the record for the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. And each day that their needless shutdown drags on, the consequences get more and more severe. Yesterday, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said they might be forced to close certain parts of the airspace if the Democrat government shutdown continues into next week. Remember when one Democrat aide remarked that the party will not concede short of planes falling out of the sky? They weren't kidding. They are prepared to prolong the pain that they've inflicted on the American people because, as Chuck Schumer said, every day the government is shut down gets better for us. And as Catherine Clark and Chris Coons said, government shutdowns are one of the few leverage times they have. But while the Democrats have been busy playing politics with people's lives, President Trump has been hard at work delivering on the mandate 77 million Americans gave him 1 year ago today. In just 10 months, President Trump has delivered the largest middle tax cut in history. He brought illegal border crossings down to record lows after 4 years of the Biden border crisis. He ended 8 wars and made America respected again on the world stage. And he's just getting started. While President Trump has been hard at work delivering on the American First agenda for 77 million Americans, that's what they voted for, the Democrats have been hard at work obstructing that agenda and consequently the will of the people at every turn. The Democrat Party of today is not your grandfather's Democrat Party. Nothing proves it more than last night's election results. From a communist mayor in New York City to a Virginia attorney general who said he wanted to murder his political opponent, pro-terrorist Marxist radicals are now the left's mainstream. We will prove that there is no problem too large for government to solve and no concern too small for it to care about. That is a direct quote from Kami Mamdani, and it should terrify every single freedom-loving American. This is the land of insanity Chuck Schumer and company have enabled with their party's political games, and now they must own the consequences. And with that, our conference chair, Lisa McClain.
Well, good morning on this nice, bright, sunshiny day. Let's begin with this. Today marks 1 year since President Trump won the 2024 election. And since that day, Republicans secured our border, unleashed American energy, and delivered the largest tax cut for working families in history. Promises made, promises kept. Yep, there's a lot more to come,
Thank
folks.
you. What's up,
But
Josh?
Democrats, in that 1 year, they have done nothing but obstruct, delay, and deny. They've obstructed the American
Miss Terry.
people's agenda, delayed millions of flights, and denied SNAP benefits for the hungry. And for what? Ask yourself, for what are the Democrats fighting for? Well, they're fighting for $1.5 trillion in new debt to fund health care for illegals and continue the wasteful spending. I mean, Democrats, you need to say that loud and say it proud, because as Republicans, we're going to make you own those votes. There's no turning back. Democrats want $1.5 trillion of wasteful spending and health care for illegals that you all are going to pay for. Over the past year, Democrats have wandered around with no plan, no vision, and no leader. But today, they finally found their leader. The radical communist mayor of New York City, a self-proclaimed communist who wants Americans to pay for global health care. Well, you wanted it, you got it. A communist who wants the government to own grocery stores. And a communist who wants the government to tell you what to do with your hard-earned money. Because you see, the Democrats don't think you are good stewards of their money. The Democrats think the government can be much smarter with what to do with your hard-earned tax dollars. Versus the Republicans, we actually believe in people. We believe you can make good choices. We don't believe you need the government to tell you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. We actually have a little faith in you. So does this sound familiar? Sounds almost identical to what the Democrats are leveraging the pain for the Democratic shutdown for. But let's be clear. Bowing down to the communists and socialists who control the Democratic Party, it has consequences. Whether you're one of the 3.2 million travelers stranded or canceled with flights, or the consequence of a family on food assistance wondering how they're going to get by. That's some of the consequences that the Democrats are okay using you to leverage for. Or a federal law enforcement officer going without pay while protecting our communities. But that's okay, because the Democrats think all law enforcement agents should probably just be defunded anyway, except when there's a problem in Detroit. And then all of a sudden, we're very thankful that the FBI and law enforcement came in to protect us. Bowing down to the radical demands of radical socialists is causing real Americans to suffer. Consequences for the safety of Americans.
Let's take time to hit that like button, guys. Double tap that screen. That's how you hit the like button if you're on a mobile device. Or click those three dots, hit the thumbs up, guys. This is the Republican Party on day 36 of the longest shutdown in U.S. government history, guys. Make sure y'all double tapping that screen. Get the likes up. Subscribe to the channel if you're new.
Consequences for our economy and consequences for your hard-earned money, and consequences gravely for our country. So Democrats, it is time to stop ignoring the consequences. It's time to stop bowing down. It's time to reopen the government, end the demands, end the shutdown, and let's get back to putting hard-working Americans first. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, questions? Yes, go ahead. I've called on somebody else. Go ahead. Thank you. We're having a press conference. Thank you. Go ahead. Yes, ma'am. And you should respect free speech. What's the question? What's the question? What's the question? I can't hear you because we have someone who doesn't respect the rights of their colleagues over here. I'd love to talk with you. Wait. I'd love to talk with you. Come to my office, okay?
You have an obligation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about it. I've been doing that. We did that before the shutdown began. We went to the White House. We went and sat in front of the Resolute desk. We brought Leader Jeffries and Leader Schumer in, and we had a discussion. The president said, please don't shut the government down. It would cause all this pain to the American people. This has never happened before. It's a clean, nonpartisan CR that every Democrat, including you, voted no on September 19th. You voted to shut down the government. You voted to stop SNAP benefits. You voted to not pay the troops, not pay TSA, Border Patrol. You may regret it now, but that's your vote, and it's on the record. So the president had his hand, and they didn't want to have a dialogue or debate. They thumbed their nose in it at him, and he had to do it. Appreciate it. Thanks for your input. Somebody give me a question that's real.
Says somebody give me a question that's real. Yeah, look like the Republicans ain't trying to hit none of that. Double tap that screen, guys.
We woke up very early, and we talked about the outcome, and I reminded them that, as we know from history, those of us who watch these things very closely and always do, that an off-year election is not indicative of what happens next. I mean, look at Virginia, for example. Glenn Youngkin won his race for governor, and then the Democrats, the opposing party, did very well in the upcoming midterm election. These off-year elections are about different things, different dynamics. In Northern Virginia, there are a lot of federal employees. They're probably pretty upset, and they should blame the Democrats for that, because as we noted today, 15 different times Republicans in Congress, Senate, and House voted to open the government, and the Democrats, like our colleague who just tried to interrupt us here, voted to close it down. So it's very clear who's responsible for this. And I think that when we go into next year in the midterms, we're very bullish about the outcome. We have an extraordinary record to run on. You mentioned, Leader Scalise mentioned sort of what we call the split screen here. And I'll remind you all again, under President Trump and Republicans, we have had an extraordinary run. The first 9 months of this, 9 months, the 10th month has been shut down because of the Democrats. The first 9 months of this Congress and this administration, arguably the most productive of all time. We cut taxes, cut regulations, cut waste, fraud, and abuse in government. We solved the border crisis, which was the #1 issue on the ballot last fall. We're solving the crime crisis around the country. We've got American energy dominance revved and going again. We have new trade agreements that are more favorable to Americans, which will ultimately bring down costs. We have put real reforms into the Medicaid program to strengthen it, because we've got people who are ineligible recipients, like illegal aliens and young able-bodied men without dependents, off the program, so that the disabled, the elderly, and young pregnant women can have the resources they need. The president is literally solving wars around the globe.
Let's get the likes over 200, guys. Double tap that screen. Y'all doing great. Get the likes up. Double tap the screen of your mobile device and click those 3 dots. Hit that thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new.
Whoa, I think we're up to 9. All of that is on one side of the screen. What are the Democrats on the other side of the screen? A government shutdown. What did they accomplish in 9 months? Interruptions. They've assaulted ICE officers. They've spurred on political violence, and they closed down the government, which is their most basic duty and responsibility. I think the American people are smart. I think they will understand this, and I think the midterm is going to be a great one for us. We had a demographic shift in 2024. We have a very favorable election map on the Republican side, and it will be even more favorable once all the redistricting stuff is settled out. We have Democrats who are flailing. They have no leader. Their national leader now, as we've noted, is Mondami. He's a communist. Good luck with that. I don't think the loss last night was any reflection about Republicans at all. I think people are frustrated and angry, as we are. I am. The president is. And we express that different ways. But look, we look forward. We're looking forward to a great election running on our record. And we're gonna get all of our incumbents reelected, and we're going to add to the number here. So that's the answer. Yes. No, I look, the question is, President Trump wasn't on the ballot. He's right about that. He and I spoke about that again, but I told him this morning what we've talked about many times and what I've said here before. The president is on the ballot in 2026. President Trump is on the ballot next fall. Because if we lose the majority, if the Republicans, the common sense people here who are doing the job for the American people, if we lose the majority in the House and this radical element of the Democrat Party were able to take over, we've already seen that movie. They will try to end the Trump administration. He won't have 4 years, he'll have only 2, because they will move to impeach him probably on the first day of the new Congress in January 2027, and they will try to systematically unwind all the important reforms that we've done for the American people, to lower costs, to have a better quality of living, on healthcare, to increase access and quality of care. We are the party that is doing that, and the president needs 4 years to complete his agenda, not just 2. So he is in a very real sense on the ballot. He's fiercely committed to us winning. He is going to help. He's offered to do rallies and to town halls and all the things. He's sent out a huge round of endorsements of incumbents, Republican incumbents, just over the last few days. He is very much engaged, very dialed in, and he understands the stakes. President Trump is on the ballot in 2026, and we're looking forward to that contest. Yes, sir.
This is crazy, guys. 36 days of the government shutdown.
But the economy and healthcare are two of the primary issues in the country, clearly, and that's why we are delighted to run on our record. We are addressing that. We are delivering for the people. We are fulfilling our promises. President Trump got more votes, by the way, in Virginia and New Jersey than either of the two governor candidates, the Democrats there. And one of the things that we ran on was improving these. We passed the American Families Tax Cut, the big, beautiful bill, and got it signed into law on July 4th. Many of those provisions will be coming into play now. It was filled with pro-growth policies. The people standing behind me all worked individually and collectively very hard on that legislation. And the American people are going to feel the positive effects of that before they vote next fall. We did it early enough so that the economic effects could be felt. And you're going to see costs go down and quality of life improve. Our policies lead to that. Socialism does not. Socialism does not lower costs. It doesn't lead to lower cost. It leads to human misery. It leads to the decay of society. It has happened everywhere. When the socialists, Mondami, and the Democrats here, Leader Jeffries apparently is a socialist now. He endorsed Mondami. He owns the results there. But when they come out and they go out into their districts next year and they try to tell people that socialism is the way of the future, anyone who studies history will tell them the opposite. The AOC and Bernie and Mondami and Jeffries, they don't tell people that when government takes control of everything,
they say they
you
ain't
have to
bleeding,
give
the
up
cost
your
is
freedom,
down, it's up.
your liberty, your opportunity, your security are yielded to the government, and that the government controls everything. You don't have choices anymore. You don't have incentive. You don't have human dignity, because we represent and we respect the individual inherent value of every single person. We don't judge anybody by the color of their skin or what zip code they live in or whatever. We are all Americans. The socialist and the Marxist divide us into camps, and they value you not as an individual, but on the merits of the group that you are collected into. And they will take away everything from you as they promise to give you everything. It's a lie. It has led to the murder of tens of millions of innocent people in the 20th century alone. That is not who we are in America. And we are proud to go out and run on our record and on those truths of the founding principles of the country, because that's what's going to save us. Olivia.
Do y'all agree with what the Republicans are saying, guys? Make sure you double tapping that screen, get the likes up, click the 3 dots, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Republicans on day 36 of the government shutdown. It's the longest in U.S.
I don't have anything to do with redistricting. The Speaker of the House, people think are in charge of everything. This is a state-by-state battle. We do believe at the end of the day that we will net more seats for the Republican Party than the Democrat Party. I mean, everybody, that's the analysis. I'll make a comment about the tragedy in California last night. What California did is very, very different, as you all know, by comparison to what a state like Texas did. Texas was following the federal and state constitution, following their state law and redistricting. California was not. They had to trample over their own state law, over their own independent redistricting commission that they had all put into place. It was a desperation, a sign of desperation on the Democrat Party. It was a game to try to rig the election, as if you could gerrymander California anymore. They managed to do it. I mean, there's like 53 representatives from California. We had 9. They want us to have 3. I mean, it's just a blatant example of Gavin Newsom's immoral leadership and the fact that they will do anything to try to rig the system to win. They know that they cannot win on their policies. They know that they don't have a national leader other than the Marxists now to try to set the tone and guide the course. And so they're going to try to rig the game. We're going to win that anyway. We're bullish. We're going to fight like warrior poets in California, and we're going to make sure that our Republicans get reelected. And we're going to do that all around the country, and we're going to continue to move forward, pursuing the America First agenda, delivering on our promises, and making this country great again. That's what we're committed to, and we'll continue to do it. Thank you.
All right, so that was the Republican Party. Mike Johnson in the Republican Party basically still pointing the finger, at the Democrats for the government shutdown, guys. It wouldn't be right without bringing in Trump to speak on this whole situation of the government shutdown. Let's go.
And we're going to talk about that, and I'll say a few remarks, and then after that I'll ask the press to leave. The press has been very, very nice to us the last couple of months. They were great to us in terms of the foreign visits with China, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, and they were actually terrific. So I want to thank you for that. I'm sure you'll get back to your normal ways soon. But we did a great job over in China.
Guys, let's take time to hit that like button, man. We got over 1,400 people in the building, man, and they got over 300 likes. Let's double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device, guys. That means your cell phone. Double tap the screen of your cell phone or click those three dots in the right-hand corner. Hit that thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel if you're new as we run down everything that we found about this government shutdown. The longest in U.S. history, 36 days, guys. This is Trump on the shutdown.
And we've done a great job in turning off wars. We stopped 8 wars. And we have 1 to go, as you probably know, and that'll get stopped also. But we've done a great job, so it's really been an honor to do it, and I did it with many of the people in this room. Every one of you I know, and every one of you I like our leaders, I like everybody. But I thought we'd have a discussion after the press leaves about what last night represented and what we should do about it, and also about the shutdown and how that relates to last night. I think if you read the pollsters, the shutdown was a big factor, negative for the Republicans, and that was a big factor. And they say that I wasn't on the ballot was the biggest factor, but I don't know about that, but I was honored that they said that. And I just want to thank everybody for being here, and a very special thanks to Vice President J.D. Vance, who's doing a terrific job. J.D., thank you. As well as the Senate leadership team that has been working very hard, working really, I will tell you, nobody's working any harder representing the American people, including Senator John Thune. John, thank you. Great job. John, thank you very much. Senator Tom Cotton, wherever you may be, Tom, thank you. Thank you, Tom, thank you. So Senator Shelley Moore Capito, who's been very involved, thank you. Senator James
Thank you.
from one of my favorite states, 77 out of 77.
They put a tomato on top of his head.
77 out of 77. Reagan was 56. That was the record. We got 7. We got
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you, James. And a fantastic friend of mine,
Shout out
and
to
an incredible
Aretha
advocate
Tate.
during the election a year ago, Tim Scott. Thank you, Tim. So as you know, we are in the midst of a disastrous Democrat-created government shutdown, and it is Democrat-created, but I don't think they're getting really the blame that they should. That's now officially the longest shutdown in American history. The Democrat radicals in the Senate have shown zero interest in reopening the government. And I don't think they'll act so soon. A lot of people disagree. I've been saying for the last 30 days, we've had 4 or 5 different points. Yes, sir, they're going to get it right now. We should have it done in a day. I've heard that about 4 times. I heard it after Kings. They said I was a king. And I heard it after Kings. I heard it after a couple of other moments in time. And I said, no, I don't believe so. And now I heard it's after the election. I don't believe so. I think they will. I think they're kamikaze pilots. I just got back from Japan. I talked about the kamikaze pilots. I think these guys are kamikaze. They'll take down the country if they have to. So I don't think so. Millions of Americans are going to be without SNAP benefits. And I will say about SNAP benefits, so when I was president, we had $7 billion worth, and now they have many times that, because...
So when it comes to SNAP benefits, guys, Trump's administration is only going to pay for half, guys, which has a lot of of states suing Trump, man. It's crazy, y'all. He's only going to pay for half of the SNAP benefits. They will not get the full amount that they usually get. And people are saying that is absolutely ridiculous when they keep on saying that some of these places where they redirect the money or direct the money has the funds to fund the full SNAP benefits. But Trump and them say they only doing half.
These benefits were given to anybody that asked. And they're up to, I hear, just many times, 47 billion. So it wasn't the purpose of SNAP. It was for people that really had problems, down and out, people that really had problems. But during Biden, they gave it to anybody that wanted it. I think it's something you have to talk about because the numbers are incredible. But countless public servants are now not being paid, and the air traffic control system is under increasing strain. We must get the government back open soon, and really immediately. We have to get it up. We have the hottest economy.
It's crazy, Miss Pyrex. It's crazy.
And it's affecting the stock market now a little bit. But the stock market, as of Friday, has hit many record highs during the last 9 months, many. And it will again. This is just the beginning, because when these plants that are being built right now start opening up, we've never had anything like this. There's a boom. There's a construction boom right now, but that's going to be bigger than that. That's going to be an economic boom as soon as they open up, and it's going to be something special. We have car companies coming in. When I was in Japan, Toyota, Mr. Toyota, I said, "What's your name?" "Toyota." I said, "Oh, you're rich." I said, "How much of the company do you own?" 92.1%. I said, "I'm glad you said the one. He wants to be." I said, "You're a rich guy." And he said,
they steady putting
I'm
tomatoes on his
$10
head. Let's
in
go.
The US. And you know who I'm talking about, right? You introduced me, Mr. Senator. You introduced me originally when you were the ambassador to Japan. He's still good. He's still strong. But he had no interest in investing in this country. Now he's investing $10 billion as of 1 week ago in building new plants. We have auto plants coming in incredibly, but we have AI and all of them. And we can't be extorted to give $1.5 trillion to people that came into the country illegally, many from prisons, many drug dealers. A lot of people came in from mental institutions. They want to give a lot of money to the people that came in illegally. We have to get them out. We can't, no country can sustain that. That's not like an attack on our country. In no country, these are not going to be productive people. These are going to be anti-productive people. And we can all have big hearts. I have a bigger heart than anybody, but we can't let that happen. It's time for Republicans to do what they have to do, and that's terminate the filibuster. It's the only way you can do it.
Terminate the filibuster, guys.
You'll be in bad shape. We won't pass any legislation. There'll be no legislation passed for 3.25. We have 3.25 years, so that's a long time. But when they can't do an extension, and John, I think they've done an extension every single time they've ever been asked forever. This is the first time they haven't done an extension. Extensions are supposed to be easy, but if they won't do an extension, they won't do any bill, even a simple bill. And we should do our own bills. We should get out. We should do our own bills. We should open up. We should start tonight with the country's open. Congratulations. Then we should pass voter ID. We should pass no mail-in voting. We should pass all the things that we want to pass to make our elections secure and safe, because California is a disaster. Many of the states are disasters. But can you imagine when they vote almost unanimously against voter ID? All we want is voter ID. You go to a grocery store, you have to give ID. You go to a gas station, you give ID. But for voting, they want no voter ID. It's only for one reason, because they cheat. We would pass that in 15 minutes. If you don't get it, you'll never pass that. You'll never talk about mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots make it automatically corrupt. If you have mail-in ballots, automatically it's correct. Even Jimmy Carter, they had the Carter Commission after he got out of office, and he had a group of very distinguished people, Democrats and Republicans, and they passed, they recommended things take place. It was a long time ago. And they said about mail-in ballots, if there is mail-in ballots, there will definitely be corruption, because, they pass through too many hands. I mean, you go in to vote, and they want your card. Even me, I went into Palm Beach. You go in to vote, they want your card. You're this, you're that. They say, "I'm sorry to do this, sir, but I have to look at your identification." I said, "That's all right." I love that. But you're really not going to get away with much. It was very, very professional, very good, and the way it's supposed to be. But these people don't want that. They have legislation in California where it's illegal to ask somebody for voter ID. If you ask somebody for voter ID, if you're an official and you say, I'd like to see you.
Come on, guys. We need 20 more likes to hit 400 on that like button. Double tap that screen, guys, or click those three dots, hit that thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribing, man. We on the road to 50K, guys. We are at, let me see right now. We ought to be, well, let me see where we at. We at 53.9, guys. K. We need under 100 subscribers, guys, to hit that 54K, guys. Yeah, man. Make sure you subscribing to the channel, man.
Your voter ID. They can arrest you. Okay? They can arrest you because they want to cheat, and they get away with it. And the Republicans let them get away with it, and we won't do that if we have the filibuster. So we're gonna talk about that a little bit. And we're going to see if we can sway, because I know we have a lot of, not a lot, I'd say half feel this way, maybe a little bit less than half. And it's time to have a really good talk. If I thought that they weren't going to pass the filibuster, I wouldn't even bring it up. They're going to pass it within the first hour. And if they take power, and it's more likely that they take power if we don't do it, because we're not going to be passing any legislation. They're not going to approve anything. We're going to go 3¼ years. There won't be one bill that we're going to pass. Because the easiest thing to pass is exactly right now what they won't pass. And they'll do that and they'll wreak havoc. But let's assume they get it. They're doing it anyway. So it wouldn't matter. They're doing it anyway. And, you know, I have a case where I have great U.S. attorneys that can't be approved because of the blue slips. The blue slips, I think you should terminate blue slips too. It's a mental termination because it's really a custom. But if you have a Democrat senator or two is bad, but it doesn't make any difference. If you have one senator writes a negative letter on some great U.S. attorney, we had it in Manhattan, Southern District. Jay Clayton, one of the most respected lawyers in the whole country, by far, one of the most respected, and couldn't get approved. The courts approved him. The courts couldn't believe it. They did it like instantly. He went to the best schools, got the best.
I see my moderators down there on high alert, man. Please be respectful in this chat to other people's opinion. Just because they don't have the same opinion as you doesn't give you the right, you know, to basically talk trash to them, man. Y'all be respectful in the chat or you will be deported, guys. We have more rockets than Elon Musk, you know, and we deport people faster than Trump. So be respectful in the chat, or you will be deported, guys. I'm just saying.
Best marks, top of his class, everything was perfect. I mean, he was led the perfect life. Went to Sullivan and Cromwell. Almost immediately became the head of Sullivan and Cromwell. You know, the most prestigious law firm, I would say, in the country, just about. Whether it's Sullivan or two or three I could name, but Sullivan, I would say, really, maybe number one. He was the head of Sullivan and Cromwell for like 20 years. He went to the SEC, was flawless. He did it for me. He was the SEC chairman. He was flawless. Then he went to Apollo, where he was the chairman of Apollo, and was flawless. Everything went good. The stock went through the roof and everything. I asked him to go to the Southern District, and he said, I'll do what you'd like to do, sir. He's a very high-quality person. But he couldn't get approval from Schumer. Schumer didn't approve him. The best student, best schools, everything is like flawless. And the courts actually said, you're not approving Jay Clayton, right, Lindsay? You heard this. The courts actually interceded, and they approved him. But that's an unusual guy. We have other people that are really good, but people don't know how good. Top students, top colleges, and they're U.S. attorneys, and they won't be approved. They're not going to be approved. We have one in Los Angeles who's phenomenal. Nope, the senators, the Democrats are, you know, again, they're kamikazes. The Democrats are not going to approve them. Blue slips are a disaster. So the only people I can get approved are Democrats. I was told that by the Democrats. We'll only approve Democrats. I said, really, is that right? It's not going to work that way. It's not going to work that way with me. But the blue slips are a total disaster. I have 10 people right now that are doing a phenomenal job, and they will be out of office pretty soon. They've got another 2-3 weeks, a couple of them, and then they're going to have to leave. And it's actually a blight on their record because, you know, nobody knows why they left, but it looks like they served 8 weeks and then they had to leave. But they're not going to get the approval because the Democrat, radical left lunatic senators are saying you can't, we're not going to approve you. And if we're not going to approve you, I had actually one Republican who got 2 great letters, but it turned out that he was a rhino, but that was a nice term for him. Now, he got 2 letters of approval, and when I said 2 Democrats approved him, I had to fire him because I figured if 2 Democrats approved him, they wrote the most beautiful letters. I found out, man, this is strange, and he was no good. I fired him. He was really not much of a Republican. The recommendation of that one wasn't such a good recommendation. Someday I'll tell you who recommended him, but it wasn't exactly the best. But when I saw when I saw the 2 senators from Virginia gave him glowing marks, Tim, I said, let me see this. I read the most beautiful letters I've ever seen. I said, I called him up. I said, sorry, you're fired. Get the hell out of here. And but it's a horrible thing. Blue slips is a horrible thing because I have the right to pick judges and I have the right to pick U.S. attorneys, and this takes away the right from me. And I think we're going to go to court on it, and we'll see what happens in court. But it gives the president, it takes away the right of the president to pick people to serve on the court and to serve as U.S. attorneys, which is very important. But the biggest thing is the filibuster. We have to get the country going. We will pass legislation at levels you've never seen before, and it'll be impossible to beat us. By the way, if they do, they're going to do it anyway, and they are going to immediately do the filibuster. And when they do the filibuster, they're going to pack the court. They want at least five justices. Now I hear it's up to 5. I actually heard up to 7 and up to 9, okay? They want new judges. They want to pack the court, and they will do it in the first day, maybe the week. Maybe they'll slow it down.
Hey, Mr.
Because there's no reason to rush. But they'll do it first week. They'll vote on this. And I have friends over there that are Democrats, I'm close to a lot of people. And I asked them about that because some people say, well, maybe they won't do that. I mean, they destroyed the career of Manchin and Sinema, and they got them out. They were the only objectors. Nobody else is going to object. They're going to do it the first day. They're going to pack the court. They're going to make D.C. a state, and they're going to make Puerto Rico a state. So now they pick up 2 states. They pick up 4 senators, okay? You think you have problems?
What's up, Rana?
They're going to do all of the things. They're going to pick up electoral votes. It's going to be a very, very bad situation. And it's done. It's done. As soon as they attain power. Now, if we do what I'm saying, they'll most likely never attain power because we will have passed every single thing that you can imagine that it's good and all good for the country. And there'll be no reason to. If we don't do that, people say they're not doing much and they're in power. So the good news is we did the great, big, beautiful bill, and it's the greatest thing we could have done. And the smartest thing with John and our Speaker of the House, who's so good, Mike Johnson, we did all in one bill. If we didn't, John, it would be a problem because, we would have gotten a small piece passed. A lot of people wanted to do that. A lot of people in the room wanted to do that. They went along with me and John and everybody, and we got this thing passed. Honestly, it's 4 years worth of goodies. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on, think of it, no tax on overtime. It's an unbelievable tax cut for the workers and for business, where business is going to create jobs, and we're creating jobs at levels that nobody's ever seen before. All these things are good. We have to be able to get the word out. If we don't get the word out, we're making a very big mistake. So I have this long, beautiful, and very boring speech. I won't bother reading it, but because we can just start talking. And I think it's very important. We have to get the country open, and the way we're going to do it this afternoon is to terminate the filibuster. And it's possible you're not going to do that. And I'm going to go by your wishes. You're very smart people. We're good friends.
Trump wants to terminate the filibuster, guys. How y'all feel about that?
But I think it's a tremendous mistake, really. It would be a tragic mistake, actually. It's time. It's time. If I thought they weren't going to approve, I'd sort of be with you. It'd be fine. I'd be neutral to with you. But knowing that they're going to pass it as soon as they get any semblance of control, they'll pass it first thing, then it's like we have to do it first. And we have 2 years, and we'll end up with 2-3 years, and we'll have this country so perfect. We will have passed more legislation than any Congress and any group of senators or a group of congressmen. And we will get it through. They'll send it to us. We'll send it to them. It'll be a beautiful machine. Otherwise, we're just going to sit around and argue with these people all day long. And they're highly unrealistic. Many of them are radical left subversives, frankly. So I want to thank everybody, and we're going to talk, and I want to thank the press for treating us so really well for that foreign trip. It was we had just an amazing meeting. Don't forget, 2 months ago, it looked like the whole world was in trouble over rare earth. And that's no longer even a subject that people talk about. It was all worked out very quickly. Without tariffs, I couldn't have done it. I put a 100% tariff on China. As soon as I heard it, within 20 minutes, I put a 100% tariff on China. When President Xi, who's really a friend of mine, as much as he can be a friend, he's a tough man. He's a tough man. Smart man, actually. Very smart. The press doesn't like it when I call him very smart. You know, they think I'm not supposed to call him smart. But at least 1.4 billion people, without question. In fact, during the meeting, we were there. A couple of you were there, and some of you saw it. So he's here, and he's got about 6 people on each side. And every one of those people was standing like this. They were in attention. And I made a comment to one of them, and he got no response. I said, are you going to answer me? I got no response. And President Xi didn't let him have any. So if there's any question, I said, I want my cabinet to behave like that. I'm demanding that I want them sitting up like that, Tim, just nice and straight. I've never seen posture like that. I've never seen men so scared in their lives. They have the equivalent of a vice president. I said, are you going to answer my question? And he's like, he doesn't move. I said, what's wrong with this guy? I will answer all questions. Why don't you behave like that?
Wow.
JD doesn't behave like that. JD butts into conversations. I want to have that for at least a couple of days, okay, JD? We'll keep you long term, but a couple of days of that would be very, very nice. Okay, I want to thank you, and we'll talk a little bit. And I see they set me up with a podium. I thought I'd just be sitting, but it's probably easier. I want to thank you all very much. Thank you to the press, and you can go, and we'll speak to you later. Thank you. I'm going to Miami to make a speech today at a big group, and we have a nice big crowd, and we'll see you there. A lot of you are traveling down with me. Thank you very much.
All right, so that was Trump, guys, on the government shutdown. Rather, he says we need to do away with the filibuster. I don't know how y'all feel about that, but that was basically him on the government shutdown. Okay, we can't have the Republicans without hearing from the Democrats, guys. Let's see what Hakeem Jeffries had to say about all this.
With working class Americans, gone. Any progress that they've made with the Hispanic community, gone. Any progress that they've made with younger Americans, gone. Because the American people have had enough of the extremism, enough of the lies, enough of the broken promises, enough of putting the wealth and the excess in the face of the American people. Most recently, what was on display down in Trump's luxury resort in South Florida, enough
Shots
of
fired at Trump.
The excess, the corruption, and the lack of focus on the issues that matter. Democrats in the House will continue to lead on the issue of affordability, will continue to lead on the issue of health care, and will continue to lead on the issue of making this great country the best version of herself. And our field general leading the charge in connection with what will happen next November when Democrats take back control of the United States House of Representatives is the DCCC Chair, Susan DelBene.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Thanks everyone for being here, and thank you for your leadership just through this incredibly tumultuous time. Yesterday, from coast to coast, voters sent a resounding message that they reject the Republican agenda. They are raising costs on everything from healthcare, housing, utilities, their efforts to they rejected their efforts to blatantly rig the system to stay in power. Voters in California stood up and rejected Republicans' attempts to rig the midterm elections and deny people in California their representation in Congress. California was significant because it showed that voters won't let Republicans cheat their way to win. The passage of Proposition 50 is a victory for free and fair elections. It proved that the public understands what's at stake and that Democrats are fighting to level the playing field and respond to the outrageous and un-American attempt by Republicans to rig the elections. The Prop 50 vote also sends a message that while we didn't ask for this fight, that Democrats and the American people are ready and willing to fight back against this Republican scheme. Whether it's California, Virginia, Maryland, Illinois, or other states, we are prepared to fight back on every possible front, every step of the way. Last night's results also affirmed what we've been building here at the DCCC all year is the right recipe to win in 2026. In Virginia and New Jersey, voters overwhelmingly rejected the Republican vision that puts the wealthy and the well-connected over the needs of everyday families. It's a testament to the quality of candidates like Mikey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger, our colleagues and now soon-to-be governors. They're both former red to blue candidates. They're former House frontline members that flipped their seats in 2018. For the midterms, we're recruiting the same types of candidates. House Democrats are running incredible patriots all over the country who are raising their hands to serve their communities. They come from different backgrounds, different walks of life, but they are all united in their shared singular passion to fight for their communities, to make a difference, to work to lower costs and to improve the lives of working families. And they are ready to work hard. We cannot take anything for granted, and our candidates are out there working hard for every vote. Meanwhile, Republicans are only focused on how they can bend the knee to Donald Trump and rubber stamp his disastrous policies. Now, I say a lot, and I will say it again because it's true. Our great candidates are the difference. They are the ones who make the difference in our mission to take back the majority. Great candidates actually take the time to listen to their communities. If Republicans were actually listening to their communities, they'd know that people are hurting, they are struggling, all because of the reckless Republican agenda and their harmful policies. House Republicans are wrecking our economy, and people are struggling day to day. They are personally feeling how bad the economy has gotten under the Republican trifecta. Groceries, utility bills, housing, healthcare, childcare, everything is getting more expensive because of House Republicans. Trump and House Republicans promised on day one to lower costs, and they've broken that promise over and over and over again. It's going to cost them the House majority. All year we've been saying that Republicans are running scared, and last night showed us why. By every metric possible, we are seeing the American public sour on Republicans' disastrous record of broken promises. And it's why voters are going to reject them in the midterms. House Democrats have the better message. We have stronger candidates, more resources, and as we saw last night, a favorable political environment. The American people are with us. And that's a big, big reason why we're going to take back the majority in 2026. Thank you, and I'll open up for questions. Mariana.
The line between the success we saw in Virginia and New Jersey, and also down in New York, is obviously the messaging for Billy. It's one that House Democrats.
I don't know. She about to put me to sleep. Let's go over here with some more Democrats. Let's hear from Bernie Sanders and Chuck Schumer.
Now, I know that there is some discussion about bipartisan negotiations, and I want to be very clear. If these negotiations say that we're going to pass legislation that will extend the tax credits for the Affordable Care Act, count me in, that's great, but there has to be a commitment that the Speaker of the House is on board. There has to be a commitment that the President of the United States is prepared to sign the bill. Bottom line is, we need to be successful in protecting the health care of the American people. And if it's just a piece of legislation that passes the Senate with either 50 votes or 60 votes, so what? Where does it go? then it becomes just a meaningless gesture. You can go home, well, I voted for a peace, that's good. But the real truth is, will we protect the healthcare of the American people? That is what this whole shutdown is. Yes, sir.
Are you at all disappointed that Leader Schumer did not endorse Mamdani?
You ask Senator Schumer that.
Senator, AOC said last night that Mamdani didn't just have to defeat a Republican, he had to defeat the old guard of the Democratic Party. So a follow-up, is she talking about Schumer? He didn't endorse Mamdani?
Look, here is what, and I want you all to appreciate this. This guy started his campaign at 1%.
Let's go, Bernie. Bernie is upset.
I called it one of the great political upsets in the modern history of America, and I think that's really quite true. So who did he take on? He took on oligarchs who put millions and millions of dollars to try to defeat him. Cuomo had all the money that he could use. He took on the President of the United States, who endorsed Mr. Cuomo. He took on the Republican establishment, and of course, he took on the Democratic establishment. So what Mamdani did last night was absolutely extraordinary. And the way that he did it, was to put together a unbelievable, incredible grassroots effort, 90,000 people volunteering, knocking on doors. So what's the message there? The message is, if you have an agenda that speaks for the working class of this country, if you are prepared to take on the oligarchs, explain to people that it's unacceptable that the very rich become much richer while working families can't even afford groceries or their rent. And if you put together a grassroots movement, you can in fact win. And I think, by the way, people say, well, that's New York City. I don't agree. I think that's... Pardon me? Why do you want to create... Look, obviously, you have a Democratic... I ran for president against the Democratic establishment. That's what Mamdani did. It's no great secret. That's what Alexandria did. No great secret. Of course, there's an establishment. And of course, there's a division within the Democratic Party. There's no secret to anybody here. What are we seeing in Maine? What did you see in New York City? What are you going to see all over this country? You're going to see progressives running, protecting the needs of the working class, taking on big money interests, fighting for an agenda that works for all, not just the few. No great secret there. Yes, ma'am.
Mamdani also said that he is a Democratic socialist and made no apologies for
Correct.
that. Do you think that's something that the Democratic Party should?
I know some of y'all want to be, biased and only hear one side, only want to hear from Republicans, only want to hear from Trump. I like to hear from both sides, man. I feel like, that's how we get to the truth, listening to both sides. But me personally, like I always say, I think both parties are at fault. The Republicans and the Democrats, because they refuse to basically come to a resolution that will help us all, guys. They're too busy pointing the finger at each other instead of finding a solution. I blame both. You know what I'm saying? Let's take time to double tap that screen, get the likes up. If you're on a mobile device, double tap your screen or click those three dots in the right-hand corner, hit that thumbs up, and most definitely subscribe to the channel if you're new.
It's not look, then you have to go through a long book of what democratic socialism means. To my mind, if you make clear to the American people that there's something wrong, where one person in America owns more wealth than the bottom 52%, do you think Americans feel good about that? Right now, the billionaire class is doing better than it has ever done, while 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. We are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people. 20 million households paying 50% of their limited incomes for housing. What the American people, I think, are asking is, how come we can't have a government that represents everybody rather than just the billionaire class? Why can't we have an economy that works for everybody rather than just...
Let's get T. Smith 47 the hell up out of here. We gonna holler at you. You ain't got a green card anyway. You know what I'm saying? Congratulations, you just got deported. We'll holler at you, man. Your sister stupid. Since you calling me stupid for saying both sides are at fault, you stupid. You know what I'm saying? And your sister. Let's get both of y'all up out of here. We'll holler at you, dog.
The people on top. So you can call it whatever you want. And then you can, and there's a lot of discussion on how do you do. Let me ask you, the real issue is, these oligarchs are so powerful. Right now, you're looking at, Musk and the others investing hundreds of billions of dollars into AI, which in my view will have a devastating impact on the jobs of many millions of Americans. Who's going to stop them? Can we rally the American people to protect American jobs and workers in this country? A lot of issues that are out there. But bottom line is we need to bring people together to stand up to the oligarchs and create an economy that works for all. Yes.
What is the risk for the midterms next year if the party leadership does not embrace this flank of the party?
Well, the party leadership did not support Mamdani in New York, and he won. Party leadership is not supporting Platner in Maine, and I think he's going to win. So I think it is, I think there is a growing understanding that leadership and defending the status quo and the inequalities that exist in America is not where the American people are. Yes, ma'am, hold it one at a time.
Back to health policy, I wanted to make sure I understood your position clearly. If the House gave you a guarantee...
I'm sorry, say it again.
If the House gave you a guarantee, would you be willing to vote on a continuing resolution and tax credits separately, or would they still have to be attached?
If we had a commitment from the Speaker of the House that he was prepared to support a strong extension of ACA credits, and if the President of the United States, and I don't trust him, so you're going to have to figure out how he structured this, was saying that he was prepared to sign it, I think we should end the shutdown tomorrow, if you had that commitment. But if you simply had a nebulous vote that wasn't going to go anyplace, I think we got to continue the fight to protect the healthcare of America. So maybe one more question. Yes, sir.
Do you think the election results have convinced more Senate Democrats to your way of thinking?
I would hope so. I mean, Donald Trump told them that. Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Schumer exited stage left. Okay, thank you very much. Sanders. All right, next up we got Schumer. Hold up. Let me get him up here.
Yes, we are. Heads up, heads up. Hi, everybody. Thank you for waiting. Always glad to have Bernie as my opening act. But anyway, let's get right to it. Last night was a shellacking for the Republicans and for Donald Trump. Last night was clear, unmistakable, as a repudiation of Trump and a vindication of what Democrats have been fighting for.
Now, the Republicans blame Schumer for this shutdown. They call it the Schumer shutdown, guys. And the Democrats and Schumer call it the Trump shutdown. I call it everybody shut down because y'all won't sit down to come up with a resolution. That's just my opinion.
Over the last several months and all year, Americans have been feeling the real-world repercussions of Trump's policies for months. They're having trouble paying their bills. And now this month, as they're getting their health care, insurance premium vouchers, they're just scared to death of how they're going to pay it. And they know that Democrats are fighting for them, and Republicans are doing nothing to address the health care crisis. And last night, Republicans felt the political repercussions. It should serve nothing short of a 5-alarm fire to the Republicans. Their high-cost House is burning, and they've only got themselves to blame. As loudly and clearly as could possibly done, from one end of the country to the other, the American people said enough is enough. Enough with Donald Trump's astronomical costs and tariffs. Right now, the president's lawyers are defending these awful tariffs in the Supreme Court. And Americans know that tariffs are a tax on them. They hate them. Maybe the Supreme Court will put Donald Trump out of his misery and declare them illegal because they are illegal. But Trump's tariffs have been one of the biggest hikes on American families in recent years. And of course, the election last night wasn't just about tariffs. The American people said enough with Republicans' relentless attacks on health care. As I said, they're getting these health care vouchers, and then there's a pit. There's a knot in their stomachs. How am I going to pay this? Am I going to do without health care when my children get sick? Americans all over the country are just sitting there and wondering what the heck is going on. And they also said enough with the cruelty, the corruption, the chaos that define MAGA radicalism. When they see that Trump doesn't want to help them with health care or paying for food for needy people, but sending $20 billion to Argentina and saying his most important thing he can do is tear down the wall in the White House, they say, what the heck is going on with this guy? And last night, they showed it. So last night was a really good night for Democrats and our fight to lower costs, improve health care, and reach a better future for our country. But more importantly than that, last night was a great night for American families that are struggling now to make ends meet because the election showed that Democrats' control of the Senate is much closer than the people and the prognosticators realize. The more Republicans double down on raising costs and bowing down to Trump, the more their Senate majority is at risk. We are seeing this from one end of the country to the other. That's not my opinion. Guess whose opinion it is? That this shutdown is hurting Trump and the Republicans. Trump himself. Here's what he said. This is his words. The shutdown was a big factor, negative for the Republicans. That's what he said about the elections last night. Comes right from him. He knows it. And when Leader Jeffries and I met with Donald Trump in the White House a month or so back, we told him this was going to happen. We warned him that if he didn't do something working with us to address the health care needs of America, and instead insisting on no negotiation with Democrats, that was a recipe for disaster for the country, and it would come back to haunt him. Last night should make it clear to Republicans that they simply cannot continue to ignore not only us, but the American people for the good of the whole country. So again, Leader Jeffries and I this morning demanded that Donald Trump sit down and meet with us to address the health care.
Trump said he's not sitting down with Democrats until they open the government, guys. Trump is not interested in any kind of negotiations, any kind of conference, any kind of anything with the Democrats. He said it himself. Until they open the government, meaning he's not negotiating anything. He don't want to talk to them, see them, be around them until they open the government. What y'all think about that?
Air crisis. Anytime, anywhere, any place. We're ready to meet with him. It's time to sit down and negotiate with Democrats to bring this Republican shutdown to an end and address the health care crisis. But if Donald Trump were smart, he'd recognize the election results for what they are. And at least this quote indicates
that's
he
what
may.
he said.
What are they? What are these election results? They're a bolt of lightning and a wake-up call to Donald Trump to start working with us to end this crisis. The takeaway from last night was unmistakable. Democrats swept in states across the country, red and blue alike. Democrats won in New Jersey by an astounding margin. In Virginia, in Mississippi, in New York, in Pennsylvania, in Florida. In statewide elections, in citywide elections, and in local elections. From school boards to state houses, voters sided with the party that's fighting for them, the Democratic Party. Let last night ring like a siren in Republican ears. The American people are tired of Donald Trump in his willy-nilly policies, raising their costs and just helping his very wealthy friends. The American people are tired of Donald Trump raising health care premiums, ignoring working people. So the way forward is simple. To Donald Trump and the Republicans, work with Democrats, work to end your shutdown by meeting with us and addressing the health care crisis. The American people have spoken. It's about time the Republicans finally listen. Okay? I am ready for your questions. Yes, this gentleman right here. I didn't recognize him, so I figured I'd call him.
Thank you, Leader. What do you say to Republicans claiming you waited until after the elections to reopen the government? Getting past these elections part of your...
Give me a break. We've been trying to meet with Thune and Johnson since late July. We've been trying to meet with Trump since September, and they've said no. We're not the ones waiting, they are. But maybe this election is a wake-up call to them. Yes.
Republicans and Trump to meet with you, but Trump, in addition to saying what's on the chart, also has been calling on Republicans to eliminate the filibuster and do this on their own. Why do you think that he's going to respond to your letter and agree to meet with you?
Well, look, if he says he's a smart politician, the election results were not vague. They were not unclear. They were a lightning bolt. Trump, America doesn't like what you're doing. Change course. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On health policy, are you willing to now possibly vote on a PCR separate from premium tax credits, and what would you need?
The answer, as I said, is simple, and what we've been saying all along. Republicans who caused the shutdown by not even negotiating with us on a partisan bill should sit down with us and address the healthcare crisis. That's the way to end the shutdown, plain and simple. Yes, Manu.
Senator Sanders just came here and he made very clear that a vote itself to extend the subsidies on Obamacare is not enough. They need immediate commitment that this will become law. Are you in the same place?
Look, I'm not going to negotiate in public, but we must address the healthcare needs of the American people. The Republicans got to sit down and talk to us about it. And I agree with Bernie Sanders. The way to solve this is for Trump to sit down with Jeffries and I. That's why we demanded it this morning. Yes. Go ahead. No. Yeah.
Thank you. President Trump has said that the Republicans should use the filibuster because he says that you would do the same thing, or you're going to do the same thing in the future, so they should just go ahead and get ahead of it.
Look, stop the bull. Sit down and talk to us and end the healthcare crisis. Stop coming up with all of these excuses. He doesn't know anything about what we're doing here. One thing he should know, this: he's caused the shutdown. The American people know he has caused the shutdown, but the American people are demanding he bring real relief. Go ahead, Annie. How did I imagine that?
Let me read you a quote that AOC said last night when asked about you not endorsing Mamdani. She said, "The Democratic Party cannot last much longer by denying the future, by trying to undercut our young, by trying to undercut a next generation of diverse and upcoming Democrats to the actual electorate and voter support."
Listen,
hey, Brenda.
I'm moving forward. This morning I talked with Mayor-elect Mamdani. We had a very, very good conversation. We said that we cared about New York City and that we look forward to working together to help the city and improve the city. I congratulated him on running a very, very good campaign. And the issue that he is stressed is being stressed by Democrats across the country, from one end of America to the other, the high costs that the Trump administration is imposing on us and their failure to do anything about it. Yes.
Is leadership willing to open the government for a limited period of time so these talks can go on while people are getting
Look, I'm not going to negotiate in public, but the bottom line is simple. The election the American people have spoken. End the shutdown, resolve this healthcare crisis, sit down and talk with us. We've been saying it for a long time, but that is becoming obvious even to Republicans, even to Donald Trump, who's often a very stubborn guy. Yes. Yes.
Supportive of the negotiations that Senator Shaheen and other Democrats are leading?
Look, I've always encouraged Democrats and Republicans to sit down and talk with each other, but all of we Democrats agree, just about every single one of us, that Trump should sit down and talk with us as a way to solve this. Everyone agrees on that. Okay, we'll take last one.
Would you, just following on that, would you accept a vote at a later date on healthcare?
I'm not negotiating in public, but I told you what the answer is. The answer is to sit down and talk to us. This election is clear as a bell, and I think it's going to affect Trump. And I think it's going to affect the Republicans. They can't, if they put their heads in the sand about this election and continue on their same path, their shutdown, their inability to help people with health care, tariff, and other costs, they're going to be in big trouble. And that's why I'm, feeling, look, this is just a battle. We have a long war to fight. But the war we're fighting, the electorate supports, which is bring our costs down. Trump promised to do it on day one. Costs are going up. Tariff costs dramatically up because of Trump. Electricity costs dramatically up because of Trump. Healthcare costs dramatically up because of Trump and the Republicans. 3 times they refused to extend the ACA credits. Thank you, everybody.
Leader Schumer, are you running for re-election?
They got questions, and Schumer ain't answering. So that was Bernie Sanders and basically Chuck Schumer, guys, on how they feel, you know, when it comes to day 36 of this, what they call Republican shutdown, you know, and put it all on Trump. Check this one out, guys. All right, this is how this shutdown affects us all. Check this one out.
Shutdown has now become the longest in U.S. history. Since 1977, there have been 21 shutdowns. What are the 5 longest ones? Why did they happen? And how did they finally come to an end? Let's break it down. All right, let's start with number 5. It lasted 16 days during the Obama administration in 2013. The dispute centered around the Affordable Care Act. Congress failed to agree on a budget after Republican lawmakers pushed to defund Obamacare. Senate Democrats and the Obama administration rejected those proposals, setting off a partial government shutdown in early October of that year.
Well, last night I signed legislation to reopen our government and pay America's bills. The first government shutdown in 17 years is now over.
The shutdown finally ended on October 16th when both chambers of Congress voted to fund the government through January 15th and extend the debt limit.
There are no winners here.
No winners indeed. The 16-day shutdown cost, by one estimate, $24 billion and hurt U.S. credibility around the world.
Minor changes were made to the Affordable Care Act, like requiring income verification for those receiving healthcare subsidies. President Obama signed the bill shortly after midnight on October 17th, ending the shutdown. Moving on to number 4, the 4th longest shutdown lasted 17 days during the Carter administration in 1978. It was one of 5 shutdowns that happened under President Jimmy Carter. This one started with several disagreements, including funding for abortion and a defense spending bill to build a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. That's something President Carter called wasteful spending. The government reopened after Congress passed legislation that excluded funding for the aircraft carrier and a public works project, while also maintaining a compromise on abortion funding. This takes us to number 3. The 3rd longest government shutdown lasted 21 days during President Clinton's administration in 1996.
And there is very little indication this evening that the White House and the Republicans in Congress are going to resolve their differences about how and when to balance the federal budget.
At the time, Republicans had just taken control of the House for the first time in decades. Clinton and Republicans clashed over how to balance the nation's budget, and the president vetoing a Republican budget proposal to give control of Medicaid to the states.
We can balance the budget without doing what they seek to do.
The shutdown ended when Republicans agreed to a proposal made by Clinton.
Republicans agreed to bring all federal workers back and pay them until January 26th. But there will be no money for workers to spend on programs House Republicans regard as unessential, such as foreign aid, the Peace Corps, and environmental protection.
Moving on to the 2nd longest government shutdown in U.S. history, it happened in 2019 during President Trump's first term. Wow. At the time, the Senate failed to pass a funding bill that included a $5.7 billion request from President Trump to help build a wall along the southern border.
Even if it has no wall money, or does it have to have?
I only look. I have other alternatives.
Trump is president during 2 of the longest shutdown in U.S. history. That's crazy, y'all. His first term and now his second one. Wow.
If I have to, and I'll use those alternatives if I have to. We want to go through the system.
Shout out,
we have to have a wall in this country.
The shutdown
for being a member for 13 months.
$3 billion. It finally ended when Trump signed legislation to reopen and fund the government.
A short-term deal, no money for a wall. Back pay for federal workers who missed paychecks, but not for thousands of federal contractors who aren't covered by laws governing shutdowns. And a bipartisan congressional conference will try to hammer out a deal on border security.
That 2019 stalemate held the record for the longest shutdown in American history until now. The current shutdown has officially surpassed the 35-day mark.
The president trying to ramp up the pressure, threatening mass layoffs and cuts to programs.
We can do things during the shutdown
that are irreversible.
It began after both parties failed to pass competing spending measures, a Democratic-backed bill that would have extended the Affordable Care Act subsidies and reversed cuts to Medicaid, and a Republican stopgap
And
bill
this is how we got here,
government
guys.
running for 7 more weeks.
This is how we got to where we're at.
Irreversible.
It began after both parties failed to pass competing spending measures, a Democratic-backed bill that would have extended the Affordable Care Act subsidies and reversed cuts to Medicaid, and a Republican stopgap bill that would have kept the government running for 7 more weeks. Democrats are pushing to extend expiring tax credits that have helped millions of Americans afford health insurance. Republicans, meanwhile, insist they will not negotiate on those provisions until the government is reopened, accusing Democrats of holding the government hostage to have those health care negotiations. Across the country, hundreds of thousands of federal employees remain without pay. SNAP benefits and air travel operations are facing growing disruptions. Vote after vote has failed to break the impasse on the Senate floor, and both sides are not close to a deal. How long will this stalemate last? Only time will tell.
And that's why I say both parties are responsible for what's going on. They at a stalemate. They can't come to a resolution, man, which is affecting us all, man. You know, workers and people on SNAP and things of that nature alike, man. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. More on this shutdown and how it impacts us.
My pleasure.
All right, so we're talking about a historic milestone here, unfortunately. Can you put in context for our viewers this morning how we got here?
Well, there is a very clear divide between the two parties, particularly in Congress. Republicans want what is called a clean continuing resolution, or CR, which simply continues to fund the government's operations at the previous level. We're in a new fiscal year. We started on October 1st, and generally, Congress should have passed appropriations legislation to authorize federal spending on a number of different programs. That has not happened in a number of years, and they use the continuing resolution dynamic to basically kick the can down the road to try and get to a budget in terms of funding the government. What Democrats have said is we want to continue the subsidies that were given to things like health care insurance and the ACA that are set to expire. And Republicans said, no, we're not going to include that. That's a separate negotiation. And so where we are, the continuing resolution passed in the House because of a simple majority, but in the Senate, you need 60 votes. You need to overcome a filibuster.
Clear eyes. This is clear eyes. Oh, my God. But, hey, I'm going to let him finish.
And there are not 60 votes in the U.S. Senate. Republicans only control 53. They were able to get 3 Democrats to join them, but not close to the 60 votes required. And this is where we are. We're basically in a stalemate over government funding for a number of programs, and we're seeing the impact more and more on the average American.
Now, we are hearing that some senators are maybe talking and making some kind of progress. As far as a timeline, do you think we're going to get there to some passing vote by the end of the week or maybe next week? What's your timeline looking like if you were to predict?
Predictions in politics are always precarious, and I'll leave it at that. Okay. But I think what we have heard are these very quiet negotiations that appear to be bipartisan in nature between Republicans and Democrats to find a way to get past this impasse. And I honestly think yesterday's electoral dynamics and the results coming out of the 2025 elections probably are going to put more pressure on Republicans to end this particular stalemate and give...
I can't do it, guys. I can't do it. I just can't do clear eyes. Now we're going to go somewhere else. Yeah, we ain't doing that. Yeah, he was explaining the shutdown, you know, this, that, and the third. I can't do him. Let's go here.
And welcome back to Live Now from Fox. The government shutdown entering day 36. It is now the longest on record. As you're taking a live look there at Capitol Hill, as I just said here, entering day 36, which means it broke the record as the longest ever, disrupting the lives of millions of Americans with federal program cuts, flight delays, and federal workers nationwide left without paychecks. President Trump has said he won't negotiate with Democrats over their demands to discuss expiring health insurance subsidies until they agree to reopen the government. He also shared this to Truth Social just yesterday, and we brought you this news when it broke here, as he said that SNAP benefits won't be paid until the shutdown ends as well. Trump, whose first term at the
SNAP benefits won't be paid until the shutdown ends as well. Seems like, they holding these benefits hostage, guys. Trump is using them as leverage, and the Republicans basically to get their agenda passed, guys. I'm just saying.
The White House set the previous government shutdown record, is set to meet early today for breakfast with GOP senators, but no talks have been scheduled with the Democrats. Talks have intensified among some centrist senators trying to negotiate an end to the stalemate, and expectations are high that it would break once election results were fully tallied in Tuesday's off-year races. Democrats sweeping key contests for governor in Virginia and New Jersey and New York City mayor. But earlier in the afternoon, Senate Democrats left an hours-long private meeting with no certain path forward, and we actually had heard from Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer, as he said, we're exploring all the options. President Trump's approach to this shutdown is different than his first term, when the government was partially closed for 35 days over his request for funds to build the U.S.-Mexico border wall. And at that time, he did meet publicly and negotiated with congressional leaders. But this time, the congressional leaders are at a standoff, and House Speaker Mike Johnson sent lawmakers home in September after they approved their own funding bill. In the meantime, food aid, child care funds, and countless other government services are being interrupted, and hundreds of thousands of federal workers have been furloughed or expected to come to work without pay. We also heard from Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, as he predicted there could be even further impacts on air travel next week if air traffic controllers miss another paycheck. Labor unions are putting pressure on lawmakers to reopen the government. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said this has been not only the longest shutdown, but also, quote, the most severe shutdown on record. I wanted to share some comments here from Thune just the other day.
Now in the 35th day of the shutdown, the longest shutdown on record and the most severe shutdown on record, something that was totally unnecessary in the first place, obviously, but we're hoping this will be the week when the Democrats come to their senses and decide to reopen the government. Of course, if you look at why we are here in the first place, it's hard to explain. I still don't know exactly what it is they want. We have accommodated a lot of their questions and concerns. They want to have a discussion about health care. We offered that up a long time ago. And, clearly I've talked repeatedly about having a normal appropriations process where we put bills on the floor, open it up to the amendment process, and allow people to have their voices heard and how we fund the government the old-fashioned way. So I'm still at a loss as to what it is exactly they're trying to get out of this. The one thing I do know is as the days roll by, the consequences and pain of the shutdown grow more severe for the American people. And especially if you are a government employee or the family of a government employee who's no longer getting paid, there are more and more stories of people out there who are trying to live paycheck to paycheck. And now you've got the food assistance going away, the SNAP program. You have Head Start and young kids who need to be able to have access to education. That's increasingly at risk. You'll see more and more probably next week with Veterans Day rolling around, Democrats out there posting nice videos and photos with veterans, which most of us probably should and will do. But the better thing they could do is actually support our veterans by opening up the government and allowing these regional offices to get open again, and allow the GI Bill hotline to start functioning and operating again. There are so many ways in which Americans are impacted by this, and certainly our veterans and our troops come to mind immediately. So I'm hopeful again that this is the week in which the Democrats will conclude that this is not a good thing. And while they may believe politically that it's in their best interest, and obviously we've seen lots of statements that suggest that, it's certainly not in the best interest of the American people. The American people are those who are caught up in the political games being played here in the Senate by the Senate Democrats. All it takes is 5 of them. We have a bill sitting at the desk, which we voted on repeatedly. It came over from the House of Representatives, meaning that as soon as the Senate passes it, it goes directly to the President. He will sign it into law, the government will reopen, and all these adverse consequences that are being experienced by people across this country will go away. That's all it takes. 5 more Democrats, 5 Democrat senators with the courage to take on their political base and their leaders and to do what's in the best interest of the American people.
All right, so that was thrown, you know, basically saying what he had to say. Now, I know we heard from Bernie a little bit earlier, you know, in the press conference. Let's see what Bernie said on the floor of the House, guys. Let's go.
That we in Congress make right now will impact this country for generations to come. In America today, we have a megalomaniacal president.
What?
Who could have a megalomaniacal president?
What?
In America today, we have a megalomaniacal president.
Whatever that means, I think Bernie just made up some words.
Today, we have a megalomaniacal president who, consumed by his quest
I think Bernie just made up some words,
power,
guys. I ain't never heard that before.
Consumed by his quest, maniacal president.
Hold on, one more time.
In America today, we have a megalomaniacal president who, consumed by his quest for more,
whatever that means, it don't sound good.
Who, consumed by his
quest, it don't
quest,
sound good, guys.
In America today, we have a megalomaniacal president who, consumed by his quest for more and more power, is undermining our Constitution, the rule of law, and is pushing this country closer and closer toward authoritarianism. I'm talking about a man who threatens to arrest and jail his political opponents here, right here in the United States of America. Not debate political opponents, not respectfully disagree with opponents. You oppose me, we're going to prosecute you. This is a man who is deploying the U.S. military, our armed forces, into democratic cities and allowing masked ICE agents to pick people up off the streets, and throw them into vans without due process and take them to God knows where. I'm talking about a president who has sued virtually every major media outlet because he cannot tolerate criticism, who has taken funds away from PBS and NPR because he doesn't want objective reporting about what his policies are doing. And this is a man who is actively encouraging his multi-billionaire friends to buy up more and more of the media so that he will have a media friendlier to him. This is a man who has extorted funds from law firms and is withholding federal funding from states that voted against him. Can you imagine that? There has never been a president, Republican or Democrat, who did not understand that he was president of the United States. Oh, the people in Utah voted against a Democratic president. We're not going to fund them, give them the funds that they are entitled to. That's never been the case. And this guy's open. Trump is quite open. Oh, Mamdani is going to be elected mayor of New York City. Well, you're not going to get federal funds. Unheard of. Illegal, unconstitutional. And because we have a president who does not believe in the rule of law, we have just seen,
what's up, Bob?
Right now, we're experiencing literally this moment. We have a president who is illegally withholding $5.5 billion in emergency SNAP funds, nutrition funds.
I told y'all the Democrats kept on saying the funds are there. The funds are there to fund the whole SNAP benefit situation that's going on. But they saying that Trump is illegally holding out the money.
Illegally withholding $5.5 billion in emergency SNAP funds, nutrition funds, from 42 million Americans, including 16 million children. The Congress put money into a fund to make sure that if the government shuts down, there will be funding for the millions of people who depend upon SNAP funds. So that,
and believe it or not, it's Democrats and states that's suing Trump behind withholding these funds. Yeah, they suing.
Children in America and their parents and their grandparents will not go hungry in the richest country in the world. And Trump says, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to withhold the funds. But then he announced, changed his mind, and he announced he would comply with the court orders. Told him that he had to release the funds. Okay, I'll comply with those orders and release the funds. And then he announced this morning, that he was not going to release the funds and would allow children in this country to go hungry. But wait a minute. A few hours later, a spokesperson for the White House said that he would comply with the court's order. Withhold funds, release funds. Withhold funds, release funds, all within a period of a few days. Does anyone wonder why faith in our government now is so very low? Mr. President, let us be clear. This government shutdown now in its 35th day did not happen by accident. In the U.S. Senate,
and as we seen, Trump basically said he ain't releasing nothing until the government is opened back up. You know what I'm saying? Trump said he's not releasing any funds until the government opens.
It takes 60 votes to fund the federal government. 60 votes. Republicans have 53 members. The Democratic caucus has 47. That means Republicans must negotiate with Democrats to move the budget forward. This is what has always happened until now. Common sense. You don't have 60 votes, you got to sit down and negotiate with the minority. That's what Republicans have done. That's what Democrats have done in the past. But right now, for the first time in modern history, Republicans are simply refusing to come to the table and negotiate. What they are basically saying, it is our way.
Hey, everybody, if you haven't took time to double tap that screen, please do it now. Double tap that screen, guys. That's how you hit the like button, or you can click those three dots, hit that thumbs up. Can we get 600 on the likes, guys? We at 572. Can we get 600 on the likes? Double tap that screen, guys, if you're on a mobile device, or click those three dots, hit that thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are new. 10 more likes, guys. 10 more, y'all. Double tap that screen. You know what I'm saying? Or click those three dots, hit that thumbs up. It helps out the channel. Shout out to everybody that hit that like button. Shout out to everybody that's subscribing.
Or the highway. Yeah, we need 60 votes, but we're not going to you. You have to come to us. This is the way it will be. To make matters worse, the Republican contempt for negotiations is so bad, so absurd, that the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, has given his chamber, House of Representatives, a 6-week paid vacation. They're not here in Washington, D.C. We're in the middle of a government shutdown. Millions of federal employees are not getting paid right now. They are wondering how they're going to feed their families. Federal employees are going to food banks, worried about paying the mortgages. Right now, millions of Americans are receiving notices from insurance companies, and their insurance premiums are rising precipitously, double, in some cases tripling. And as I mentioned, people are worried about whether or not they're going to get their food stamps and other nutrition programs. That's what's going on. But the House of Representatives is not in town. They're on a paid vacation. How absurd. How insulting is that? So the bottom line, though, Mr. President, is really, what is this whole conflict about? Democrats accusing Republicans, Republicans accusing Democrats, media does its thing. What really are the issues that we are talking about? So let me tell you what, in my view, is going on. I think almost everybody in the country understands that we have an economy today in which the very wealthiest people in this country, the oligarchs who were sitting right behind Trump at his inauguration, multi-billionaires, they have never, ever had it so good. They're making huge amounts of money. But at the same time, as the very richest people in America are becoming richer, Trump and my Republican colleagues want to pass a budget that throws 15 million low-income and working-class Americans off the health care they have by slashing Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act by $1 trillion. On one hand, they want to give massive tax breaks, $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1%, and they're going to pay for that by cutting Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act by $1 trillion, throwing 15 million people off the health care they have. Mr. President, it is no great secret that well before Trump, before this whole shutdown and cuts to Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act, no secret to any American that our current health care system is broken, it is dysfunctional, and it is cruel. Today, despite spending twice as much per capita as almost any other, the people of any other major country on earth, 85 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured. Before these cuts, 500,000 Americans are going bankrupt every year due to medically related debt. Bad enough you have cancer or some other terrible disease, and in addition to worrying about whether you're going to stay alive, you got to worry about how you're going to pay hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical bills. Many can't. In fact, 42% of cancer patients drain their entire life savings within 2 years of their diagnosis. If that's not a broken system, I don't know what is. Mr. President, 1 out of every 4 cancer patients lose their homes to foreclosure or eviction because of the outrageous cost of health care in this country. And in the midst of all that, a broken, dysfunctional, and wildly expensive health care system, Trump wants to make the situation even worse by throwing 15 million people off of the health care they currently have. So what happens when you do that? What happens if you say to 15 million low-income and working class people, sorry, you no longer have health care? Well, it's not hard to understand. If people can't go to a doctor, and if they have a chronic health care problem, you know what happens to them? They die. So let's be clear about it. When you throw 15 million people off the health care they have, according to a variety of studies from Yale, University of Pennsylvania, up to 50,000 Americans will die unnecessarily each and every year. These are people who, if they had decent health care, would not have to die. That is what we are voting on. That is what we are debating right now. Will we allow 50,000 of our fellow Americans in every state in this country to die unnecessarily? And let us be very clear. These cuts will not only kill people, not only throw 15 million off the health care that they have, it will devastate nursing homes that are highly dependent upon Medicaid for their funding. It will devastate community health centers and rural hospitals all over this country. That means the quality of care in nursing homes, in rural hospitals, and in community health centers will deteriorate. In other words, the budget that Trump is demanding to be passed here in the United States Senate will be a horror for working families all across this country. But that's not all. That's not all. It's not just throwing 15 million people off the health care they have at a time when health insurance in this country is already outrageously expensive. People can't afford it today. Trump's proposal, his big, beautiful bill, and what he wants Democrats to do is to vote for a budget that doubles health care premiums. In my state of Vermont, it's not just doubling, some cases tripling, even quadrupling. So how, when right now people can't afford health care, how are you going to see a doubling of your premiums, a tripling of your premiums? That is going to impact some 20 million Americans, many of whom, by the way, are getting their notices right now from insurance companies, people who are on the Affordable Care Act. Mr. President, according to every poll that I have seen, the American people, quite understandably, by overwhelming margins, do not want to see a doubling of their health care premiums. According to the Kaiser Family Foundation, 78% of Americans, including 59% of Republicans, want to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Now, I have got to say, I'm not a great fan of the Affordable Care Act. I believe that we should do what every other major country on earth does and guarantee health care as a human right through a Medicare for all single-payer program. You want cost-effective, universal health care, that is the way to go. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of support for that here in the Senate. So our immediate job, at least, is to make sure that 20 million people who get their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act do not see a doubling of their premiums. And this impacts, believe me, not just Democrats, but Republicans as well. Tony Fabrizio, President Trump's own pollster, has said, and I quote, this is Donald Trump's own pollster, quote, by broad bipartisan margins, voters want to see the Affordable Care Act tax credits extended rather than expire at the end of the year, whether in the context of premiums doubling or 5 million families losing their health insurance. This includes solid majorities of Trump voters and swing voters, end quote. Tony Fabrizio, President Trump's own pollster. So it's not just Democrats, it's not just independents, it's not just the far left, it is Trump supporters. Further, at a time of massive income and wealth inequality, the American people do not want to see the billionaire class receive $1 trillion in new tax breaks for the 1%. So let me be clear. I know this is a radical thought, but the truth is Elon Musk, the richest man alive, worth some $500 billion, man who owns more wealth than the bottom 52% of American households. You know what? I don't think he needs a tax break. Now, around here, that's a radical statement. Nor does Mr. Bezos, nor does Mr. Zuckerberg, nor does Mr. Ellison, nor do anyone in the top 1% who today are doing phenomenally well. It is time that we started worrying about the working families of this country, people who cannot afford health care, who can't afford to pay rent or mortgage, cost of housing outrageously high, who can't afford child care, can't afford to send their kids to college, who can't afford to buy decent quality food at the grocery store. Those are the people that we should be worrying about, not tax breaks for Mr. Musk and the other billionaires in this country. So, Mr. President, let me be very clear in telling you what I will not be doing. I will not vote for a budget that throws 15 million Americans off the health care that they have. I will not be voting for a budget that doubles premiums for 20 million Americans. I will not be voting for a budget that decimates rural hospitals, nursing homes, and community health centers. I will not be voting for a budget that causes over 50,000 Americans to die unnecessarily every year. I will not be voting for a budget that provides $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1%. And I hope very much that we can win some Republican support in opposition to these disastrous proposals. But at the very least, I would hope that the vast majority of my colleagues in the Democratic caucus will not vote for these proposals. In my view, Democrats in the Senate must stand with the working families of our country and in opposition to Trump's effort to virtually destroy the American healthcare system today. The American healthcare system was broke. Trump's unprecedented and dangerous agenda, not just Democrats, not just independents, but Republicans as well. And despite the Democratic Party's all-time low approval rating, independents and even a number of Republicans are now standing with the Democrats in their fight to protect health care for working families. If Democrats surrender now, at a time when Trump already has no regard for our democratic system of checks and balances, he will simply be emboldened to go forward and decimate programs, not just in healthcare, but programs that protect the elderly, protect the children, protect the sick, and protect the poor, while giving more tax breaks and other benefits to the people on top. So, Mr. President, now is the time for us to stand with the American people. They know the economy is rigged. They understand that it is absurd and unfair to give tax breaks to billionaires and throw millions of people off of the health care they have. They understand that it will be a horror show if 20 million plus Americans are forced to see a doubling in their health care premiums. The American people want the Senate to stand tall and say no to Mr. Trump and the Republican leadership. I hope we will be able to do that. Thank you, Mr. President. With that, I yield the floor.
All right, so Bernie most definitely speaking on day 36 of the government shutdown. Now, that's not the only thing that's going on right now. The shutdown is not the only thing that's going on right now. We also have Trump basically in court, with the Supreme Court over his tariffs, guys, whether they are lawful or unlawful. Let's check this one out.
Emergency law to do so. It's the linchpin of his economic agenda, these tariffs. Now, based on what we've heard, the outlook doesn't seem to be all that great for the president, who earlier this morning called these arguments and the forthcoming decision that they will make in the Supreme Court life or death. We're going to talk about what we've heard so far with an incredible panel here. Steve Vladeck, I want to start with you. What is your take on this? And again, I know we're kind of in the weeds on tariffs, but I just want to remind our viewers that this is about so much more. This is about presidential power and whether Donald Trump has as much as he thinks he does.
Dan, it's such an important moment for the court and the country. We've had so many rulings by the U.S. Supreme Court in Trump cases over the last 9 months, but they've all been in this frenetic context of fast moving, of whether President Trump can do the thing he's doing. And it's a case about how broadly the executive is allowed to interpret a statute that doesn't use the word tariffs, that refers to a national emergency that was enacted in a context of reining in presidential power after Watergate. It's why this is such a big deal. It has massive political implications because of how central tariffs are to Trump's foreign policy agenda, but it also has massive, what the lawyers would call doctrinal implications, because it's such a signal of where this court is likely to go in the other cases that are already on their way to the court.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And Laura, the signals that we've gotten based on the questions from the justices seem pretty loud and not great for President Trump.
Out of the gate, they were peppering them with questions. They were peppering the argument that suggests that he had this power to do so. And here's why. Just about a year or so ago, the court was saying they had a major questions doctrine that they were saying. Essentially, hold on, if it's got huge political or economic significance, you got to go through Congress because we got these different branches of government that are all co-equal. What Trump is essentially saying is, I have an emergency. It's called a trade deficit. And as a result of that, I need to take action that makes me go around Congress. Well, the other side is saying, that's not
Shout
the
out
emergency.
to So
You still
Blessed
gotta
for
go
being
through
a member
Congress
for
to do
13
so.
months.
That's why you're hearing things about delegation. Has Congress given the power of the purse and taxation and leveraging tariffs back to you in some way? They're saying no. And there was a really interesting one by Gorsuch today, where he essentially was challenging politically the idea, well, hold on, they can give the power back when they think it's no longer an emergency. And he was essentially saying, in what world does Congress cede power and then get to reclaim it when you've got elections that are happening?
And when you have a veto. I mean, when
you get a veto,
and so you'll
right.
need 2/3 supermajorities of both chambers of Congress. What can 2/3 of both chambers agree to right now, other than that maybe today is Wednesday?
Oh, is there a shutdown? And then the question is whether that's relevant to what the framers intended.
Atmospherically, this is what I found most striking about the arguments, which is you don't usually hear the justices, especially Republican appointees like Neil Gorsuch, bring in the political reality. They want to decide these questions in a world in which institutions are idealized and are acting the way they're supposed to. That Justice Gorsuch, who is a vote the administration definitely needs, is actually focused on the real world consequences of how hard it would be to unwind power that the president created in the statutes. That is a very telling sign and not a good one for
If you're in the building and have not hit that like button, guys, we need 10 more likes to hit 700 on that like button, man. Double tap that screen, of your mobile device if you're on the phone, or click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, guys. 10 more likes till 700, man. Make sure you subscribing to the channel if you're new. This is everything that I know regarding day 36 of the government shutdown, as well as Trump in front of the Supreme Court about his tariffs.
President Trump.
Yeah, it's about the credibility too, by the way, because if they go against that theory, then that undermines their own precedent from a year ago.
Right.
So if it's good for Biden to have the restrictions for the student loans and beyond, suddenly it's okay for Trump to do an end run, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, okay. So let's drill down on tariffs specifically. And I mean, we've talked about this nonstop, that this is so ingrained in who Donald Trump is and what he wants, and has been since decades before he ran for office. Just one example. Listen to what he said to Oprah Winfrey in 1988.
I'd make our allies, forgetting about the enemies you can't talk to so easily, I'd make our allies pay their fair share. We're a debtor nation. I think people are tired of seeing the United States ripped off. And I can't promise you everything, but I can tell you one thing, this country would make one hell of a lot of money from those people that for 25 years have taken advantage of.
It's amazing to listen to him in that younger context and just his voice. But you are right. It is central to his political identity. And that was before he was really in politics. But it is central to his worldview. What he just said at the end there, though, just to get to the practical impacts that Amy Coney Barrett was getting at, another vote I would imagine they would probably need. The whole get rich, this country could get rich. Well, if this doesn't go their way, and they asking the questions about how you pay back, and she's called this whole thing a mess. I mean, you don't hear a Supreme Court justice usually, I think, just like use the common language of that, but a mess. And I think, to Steve's point about the political fallout of this, Donald Trump has raised the stakes politically on this. He has called this the most important Supreme Court case of all time.
Life or death.
It is what he ran on. It is his worldview. And he has said this will determine whether or not the country has the future that he envisions.
And Dana, can I just tell you, I mean, last night as we were covering the election, I was talking to Republicans who are honestly, privately praying that the Supreme Court rejects Donald Trump's argument here, right? I mean, they think that if the court decides against him, it will unleash the economy, and that maybe they'll have a better chance, or any chance, of hanging on to the House in the midterm election.
Because economic suffering that voters made their voices heard on last night isn't just about sort of affordability and the groceries, but That it is about that, but that there's also
Well,
a
it's
connection
also
to
about-
people hurting because of the tariffs that he's imposed.
Right, and the idea that there's a lot of uncertainty right now, a lot of volatility, and I mean, the stock market is going gangbusters. There's a sense there might be a bubble there. Jobs is really the biggest one, right? Are companies feeling like they're in a position to be hiring? We've just seen, obviously, AI is also disrupting that piece of it. So there is this kind of behind the scenes tension where these Republicans are just hoping beyond hope that the court fixes the political problem that they feel the president is creating, but they can't say that out loud.
These kind of Republicans that have never been on board with these kinds of tariffs.
No,
and
and,
that's
that's
why-
Congress powerful again. By
And
the
that's
way.
why he didn't do it the
And some
first time around.
of whom might be justices on the Supreme Court of the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, let's keep in mind that like those political views are not limited to the political branches.
Carrie, I want to bring you in, and I want to take this up many thousands of feet, because we're talking about tariffs because it has a real world impact. But this discussion about how much power any president has, especially this president who has been so aggressive in trying to gobble up as much power as he could, this is just the first, or one of many, I should say, cases that the Supreme Court is going to hear. Also, control of independent agencies, firing a member of the Federal Reserve, ending birthright citizenship, withholding funds appropriated by Congress, the transgender military service ban, National Guard deployments. All of this is President Trump saying, I have the power to do this, and
Trump
coming
gonna
up
be
through the
in court.
courts are questions for the Supreme Court to answer, yes or no, whether he's right.
Right, and this particular case, while it is about tariffs, it also really is about the president's emergency powers. He's using this statute, IEPA, to designate emergencies and then to be able to levy the tariffs, which is his signature foreign policy tool. If the Supreme Court takes this particular tool away from him, which he uses extensively in his diplomacy, in his economic conversations with foreign partners and foreign adversaries, he uses tariffs as his signature foreign policy tool. If they take it away, what is he going to do in the second half of his term? What leverage will he have? As to his emergency powers, that is one of the significant things that I wonder whether the court will really take that on, get into whether or not the particular things that he's designated as an emergency are emergencies. I don't think they will. I think they're going to focus more on the statutory interpretation and whether or not the text of this statute allows him to levy a tariff, which the government is saying it's a tariff, whereas the businesses are saying it's a tax.
Can I say though, I mean, to Carrie's point about like what is poor President Trump to do? I mean, it's worth stressing there are other statutes that authorize the imposition of tariffs. I mean, one of the, I think, most compelling arguments that have been made by the small businesses challenging the tariffs, and as we're sitting here by the Solicitor General of Oregon, is that it's not like Congress has given the president no power to impose tariffs. It's that there are other statutes that have more rigorous substantive constraints, more rigorous procedural constraints. And were the Supreme Court to say, you can use IEPA, this emergency statute, based solely on your determination that there is some situation of, severe, extraordinary harm, not only does that render those other statutes irrelevant, but it also, I think, would be an ominous harbinger of how the court's going to approach those other statutes in other cases.
Well, and one of the difficulties with the emergencies is that Congress really hasn't legislated in a stronger way a mechanism to end emergencies. And so there is this situation, this came up a little bit earlier in the oral arguments, that emergencies just continue to go on without being ended.
I think you could just end the sentence, Congress hasn't legislated a way to, period. Because you can fill in the blank with pretty much anything.
But it comes back, if I may, really quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, but one of the striking things here is that there was a provision in the National Emergencies Act when Congress enacted in 1976 that would have allowed Congress to terminate a national emergency through what's just called a concurrent resolution, through a resolution that had a majority in both chambers. That's a legislative veto that the Supreme Court struck down in 1983. So the Supreme Court bears, I think, some responsibility, right, for some of the mess in which we're finding ourselves.
All right, y'all, you know what I'm saying? So that was some on what the Supreme Court has going on with Trump, guys. Yeah, day 36 of the government shutdown, the longest in U.S. history. Democrats still blaming the Republicans still blaming the Democrats. Trump saying he's not going to negotiate until the government is opened back up. He's also not going to issue out any funds until the government opens that back up. Seems like we're still at day one of this whole situation, a standstill. Everybody's pointing the finger at everybody else when, in my opinion, everybody's responsible for what's going on, for a lack of negotiations, for a lack of not wanting to talk, for a lack of concerns about the American people who are suffering at the hands of what it is that they're bickering about. You know what I'm saying? The bigger picture is taking care of the American people, and right now we're the ones that are hurting, man. I hope y'all enjoyed the show. Most definitely double tap that screen, you know, if you have not. Most definitely subscribe to the channel if you have not. Shout out to everybody that has subscribed. Shout out to all my people that's been subscribed. Shout out to my members. Shout out to my moderators for keeping this chat running smooth. When will it end, guys? I don't know, you know, but as they keep me updated, I'll keep y'all updated on everything that I see basically going on in the news, man. So if you like this brand of the entertainment, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I may come back later with more updates on this whole entire situation or any other situation that happens to come across my desk, man. Once again, I hope y'all enjoyed the show. I enjoyed y'all. Shout out to everybody who's been in here soaking in all of this information. So until I see y'all again, y'all be safe out there, and most definitely take care of y'all self. It's getting crazy, man. Sidewalk Gang, checking out. I catch y'all on the next one, man. I'm gone. If I can end it. Lord have mercy. Well, dang. It's not letting me end it, guys. It's saying, no, don't go. We're not done. Don't go. All right, I'm out of here.